The June numbers are in. I'm Riyad from Right at Home Realty.
Will Ellis from Right at Home Realty.
And Sadiq Boodoo from Approved Financial Services.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Riyad.
So I'll just jump in with the overall GTA stats and then I'll pass it on to Will. Okay, so for year over year, the total sales, which are residential transactions, we're actually down 41.4%. Last year, June, we had about 11,000 transactions, and then we're down to about 6,400 June of this year. Month over month, we're down as well, about 4.7%. So from May to June, we're down, roughly about 1,000 transactions. Average selling price, year over year, we're still up 5.3%. We're up about last year, June, we're about 1,088,000. And this year, June, we're at 1.1 million. Month over month, we're down as well. We're down -3%. May of last month, we're about 1,175,000, and June of this year, we're at 1,139,000. And then total new listings, we're roughly about the same. We're up 1% year over year. Okay, Will, I'll pass it on to you for the Durham numbers.
Well, Durham, month to month is down 12.5%. Sales drop versus a year ago, June 2021, is down 32.09%. Inventory is up. Market is showing signs of balance. That's not balanced yet. Signs of balance. The average price is down to just under 970, but that's up 5.6% versus June 2021. Pricing is down, of course, month to month. And average days on market now is over 12 days. And yeah, that's a Durham update.
Yeah, actually, one thing I want to mention too, overall, this is good for all the sellers out there. The market has changed. So last year, the average days on market were about 17 days. We're actually up 41%. This year, June, we're at about 24 days. So when you list your property, expect it to sit a little bit longer than usual. That's kind of like the normal real estate market. None of this sold in a day or sold in 2 days anymore.
Like, even though it says Durham numbers are like up. Sorry for interrupting. Though we believe, though Durham numbers say 12 days, I believe the number of days on market for Durham region is over 20 days. But the Durham stats, I'm looking at the Durham printout from Drawer and from my personal notes, it's saying 12 days, and I think it is more like 21 plus days on market, which is normal.
Yeah.
Now.
Sure. And sorry, Sadiq, we interrupted you there. So
no worries, guys. No worries. It's all good information, right?
Yeah.
So
what are you seeing your end?
Well, I know everybody's who's been following the mortgage rates and stuff like that. It's all anticipating on the 13th. The next announcement with regards to the overnight lending rate. So we're expecting it's going to be bumped up another 75 basis points, which is, again, a huge jump. I'm not a fan of this. I don't think, and you guys have heard me say this, raising interest rates does not combat artificial inflation, and we know that we have artificial inflation. All it's going to do is, basically tighten up things for people, make their cash flow a lot harder, and potentially create the problem that the government's always saying they're trying to prevent, which is a market crash, right? The tighter you squeeze people's belts, the harder it is for them to breathe, right? And that's kind of what we're doing here. So I'm not a big fan of it, but it looks like it's more than likely going to happen. If not the 0.75, probably another 0.5%, but everyone's kind of anticipating a 0.75 jump.
Okay.
What do you think? If it's not, so if you believe raising rates is not the answer for the inflation concerns of the world, what are your thoughts on other solutions to help combat inflation?
Well, I'm always a big fan of, a free market. Unfortunately, like we'd like to believe in Canada, we have a free market system. We really don't. Friday with the Rogers issue, really, you got Bell and Rogers, right? That exemplified the fact that we don't have a free market system. We only have two major players, and these, pseudo monopolies that exist, allow for these pricing to, harm consumers. And whether it's in telecom or any other arena, these prices start going up. When we look at your staple items, your milk and bread and eggs and these things, we don't have a free market system where the market dictates these prices. It's all government regulated. Governments have taxes and tariffs, and they have minimum set prices on these things, and that forces the affordability for the consumer to now change with the fact they're impacted. I think A, we need to get rid of that stuff, and B, these companies that are making these super profits taking advantage because, hey, when supply was low, you were willing to pay this price. So now that supply is getting better, continue paying that price. We need to stop that gouging, right? That combats it. Actual action, not making these policy changes that affect every other aspect of your life, like transportation costs for those products. Because all that does is now, when it costs more to transport goods, then the goods cost more to buy. Okay,
yeah.
All it is a cycle, right? And we're not going to solve that cycle. And in the real estate market, coming back to what everybody really cares about that's listening on, is when we see these rates go up, you got to keep in mind that as consumers, if I bought my house for a certain price, I'm going to fight tooth and nail not to ever sell it lower than that. I want to come out with a win. So there is going to be pushback. There is going to be where people are going to say, hey, like, I'm not going to sell my house for a loss because it's an asset. I shouldn't be losing on this, right? And we're going to see that stagnation in the market where people are going to turn around and say, well, I'm just going to hold on to it then. Even if it's an investment property, then they might as well just hold on to it, just like the same way they would with stocks, right?
Good point.
Now, one of the things I know we were talking about, guys, and a lot of people are concerned with these the rate increases, their affordability is being affected, and what can they do about it? The biggest tip I can give to anyone, if you're looking to purchase or if you're looking to sell, is a concept called multi-generational housing. Okay? And now, multi-generational housing in North America is, for the most part, unheard of. Around the world, it's the standard, and what that is more than one generation in the family occupying a home. So, parents, the grandparents, and the children all living in the same house. So it's usually 2 to 3 generations sharing the expenses, sharing the affordability of that property. And that actually creates more buying power and more purchasing power in the market because you have those incomes, and those incomes could be used to qualify. On a selling aspect, if you have a property that you can renovate and create an in-law suite or make it a legal rental unit, it may not necessarily be something that somebody's buying to rent to anybody else, but it could be occupied by an immediate family member, and that helps them afford that property. And as a seller, you've now increased your appeal and potentially your selling price for your property. So it's
question for you about that. If I'm a buyer right now and I'm buying a home, and say it has a legal separate basement, when you qualify for a mortgage, can that be taken into consideration even though you don't have a tenant in there right away?
Yeah, with a lot of lenders, especially a lot of the lenders that we work with, they allow what's called market rent. So they'll have an appraisal done, and part of that appraisal will request for the appraiser to do a market rent analysis, where they look at what the similar size units in that surrounding neighborhood rent for that's been listed and rented on MLS, so through a realtor. So if it's a private rental, somebody just throws it up on Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace, doesn't count because there's no actual tracking for that. But when it's done through a realtor, it shows up on the Trev system, and they can go back and look at that and say, okay, this is the average rent for a basement in this area that is 2 bedrooms with a bathroom or whatever the case is. And they can use that now to include in the affordability, in the income to qualify for that property. The cool thing about it is if it's an owner occupied property with that rental component, we can use 100% of the rent.
That's good to know then.
And what does owner occupied mean?
So you're buying it and you're living in it for the most part, right?
Yes. Okay. Well, that's okay. Someone has a question. We're here to educate.
That was good.
Again, Sadiq, thank you. Always so insightful.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Take care.